Our first reading is from Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. The word of the Lord.
So sometimes, in order to understand a story, you got to know the backstory. And that's especially true of today's first reading. As today's first reading begins, God appears to Abram and tells him to go from where he's living to the land that I will show you. And remarkably, Abram just gets up and goes. But in fact, Abram and his whole family had already been on a journey towards a new place. But they got sidetracked. They got stuck. The verses before today's reading give us the backstory. It begins back with Noah and the ark, and it traces the genealogy of Seth, the son of Noah, down to Terah, the father of Abram. This involves lots of funny names, which is probably why we do not read those verses. And for reasons that Genesis never tells us, Terah, the father of Abram, decides to leave Ur of the Chaldeans, which is a place you have probably never heard of, but it's today we're sort of in southwestern Iraq, and travel on to the land of Canaan, which is the very place that later God sends Abram. But when they get about halfway there, they come to the land of Haran. That is another place that you have never heard of probably, but you have all seen pictures of it recently, because all of those terrible earthquake pictures that are right on the border of Turkey and Syria, that's where it is. They come to that place, and they stop. For some reason, unknown to us, they just stay there for apparently a very long time. They stopped their journey. They didn't continue. Why was that? Again, Genesis does not tell us, and there is no suggestion that God appeared to Terah, the father of Abram, and told him to go to Canaan in the first place. So it seems like they just got to Haran, and they got stuck. Maybe they got stuck because the journey had been long and hard, and this seemed like a pretty nice place to be. Maybe they didn't even intend to stay there for a very long time, but as the weeks and the months wore on, they became comfortable with the routine and the situation, and they just never pulled up stakes and continued. But maybe they got stuck because they got scared of what lay ahead of them. From ancient times, the land of Canaan was continuously fought over by every big power and every regional power. It is still a hotbed today, all the land of Israel and Jordan. It had a lot of promise, but it was not the safest place to be. Maybe Terah and Abram heard about all of the chaos ahead, and they figured maybe it would be nice, or a better idea anyway, to sit tight where they were for a little bit longer until things cooled down. But maybe they just got stuck because they got distracted by life. You know, sometimes we read stories of, ancient biblical stories of journeys, and we think that everybody was really into this great big road trip that they were on, but they had to deal with all the regular day-to-day things for months and years. They had to find food and cook and figure out how to deal with problems that were going on. People got sick. It was hard for them to keep moving around. Maybe they just got busy with other stuff, and they never managed to get back on the road. But for whatever reasons, they stay where they are for a pretty long time. And eventually, Terah dies there in the land of Haran. And it's at this very point that our reading begins, when God says to Abraham, now it's time to resume the journey. Get unstuck. Move forward to the land that I will show you. God could have told Abram something else entirely. God could have told Abram, stay where you are, and I will do great things with you right here. Surely, God was capable of that. And after your dad dies, you have had enough trauma in your life already without uprooting yourself and heading to a new land. God could also have told Abram, return to the land you came from. After all, you've probably got support and family back there. And of course, God could have done great things with Abram back in the land of Ur of the Chaldeans. But instead, God tells Abram to get unstuck, to continue the journey. And moreover, it's through this journey that God is going to act. And God is not only going to make Abram's name great, but God is also going to bless all the families of the earth through him. But it seems that those things come not just through a person or a static place, but through the journey itself. And so God tells Abram to get unstuck and continue his journey. And this is not the only time in the Bible that God has a message like that for people. It happens over and over again. It's really the same message God had for Elijah when he hid out in the cave and wanted to hide from the world around him. And it's the same message that Jesus gave to Peter and James and John on the mountain of transfiguration when they wanted to just stay put and hang out on the mountaintop. We sometimes speak of the season of Lent as a journey of following Jesus to the cross and to the empty tomb. But it's more than that. It's a season of practicing how we journey with Jesus each and every day. Jesus calls us, individually and as a community, to a journey of life through which God both blesses us and makes us a blessing in the lives of others. But sometimes we get stuck. Perhaps like Abram and Terah, we get stuck because we need to take a break and find a comfortable spot. Yet sometimes that spot becomes the place where we dwell, even if we didn't intend to stay there for a long time. I don't know about you, but I have found this to be a problem sometimes in my life recently where I realized this is a hazard after COVID. During COVID, I developed certain routines, certain patterns. I thought, this is going to work for me right now. This is a good way to just kind of manage my life while we're in the middle of a crisis or a trauma. But after a while, it just becomes the pattern. And I realize I'm sitting here in this pattern. Is this really where I'm supposed to stay? And while I know that I cannot go back to where I was before, and that wouldn't even be a good thing, maybe it is time to get unstuck and get on with the journey. And perhaps God's call to us through today's first reading is to ask what patterns or routines have become ruts in our lives. Where have we paused and not started again? In what aspects of our lives is God calling us to get unstuck and to get on with the journey of life to which God has been calling us? And maybe like Abram and Terah, we get stuck because the road ahead is kind of scary. I mean, you do not need me to tell you about all the scary stuff going on in the world around us, or the fact that things are changing so quickly that it's often tempting to just sit tight where you are if you're feeling safe and warm and wait for things to calm down a bit. Abram, Elijah, and the first disciples clearly felt a lot of those same things as well. But when you get paralyzed by fear, the past traumas, or just the unknown which lies ahead, you also miss out on the promise. And while every journey to which God calls people, and indeed every journey of life, involves risk, God promises that the journey is also rich with the promise of blessing, but which we cannot find if we don't get on with the journey. And perhaps more importantly, like Abram, until we get unstuck from the scary stuff, we often cannot be agents of blessing to others around us. I mean, this was the promise to Abram. If you get on with the journey, you're going to be a blessing to others. But that doesn't happen until he starts down the road. And sometimes for us too, we get stuck because we get distracted by life. You know that saying that goes, don't sweat the small stuff? There is the corollary which says, it's all small stuff. Because often the big things are a combination or a sum of a lot of little things. And sometimes we miss out on those big things. We miss the forest for the trees. And part of God's call to Abram and to us is to begin to be able to see the bigger promises of life and blessing that God is offering us, so that we can begin to get unstuck from the distractions and the mundane, and instead resume the journey to which we're called through our baptisms. Lent is a season of journeying with Jesus, but it's not just a journey to the season of Easter. It's a journey which helps us practice following Jesus in the journey of our lives. It's a journey that helps us reflect on where we are and where we've been, and to ask whether or not perhaps we have become stuck somewhere along our journey. And so today's first reading is an opportunity to hear God's call in our lives, to reflect on whether we've become stuck in a routine that's become stale. It's an opportunity to ask whether we become stuck in a spiritual or emotional place that isn't working for us anymore. It's an opportunity to rethink whether the things we've been focusing on are helping us move forward or holding us back from the journey. And in those situations, God calls us also to get unstuck and to get on with the journey. God promises us strength for the road ahead to help us, and most importantly, God promises us also that even when it's unclear exactly what lies ahead, God will use the journey to bless us and to make us a blessing in the lives of others around us.